Silk just dropped a brand new collection called National Parks, and I'm going to be swatching all the colors for you today, as well as doing a furniture flip with my favorite color from the line, and it starts right now. If you have been around my channel for a while, you guys know that I love silk. It has definitely become one of my favorite paints that I use all the time on my channel. And I love the ease of it because it has a stain blocking primer in it. It's got your color, and then it has a top coat built in. So I love spraying this stuff, but it does hand brush well too. And the makeover that I'm gonna do at the end of this video is going to be brushing on my favorite color from the line. This release is inspired by the national parks. So they're very earthy colors, things that you're gonna see outdoors. We do have a few pops of color, but they're still earthy and neutral. And I'm gonna swatch all of them for you because in the can, paint can look completely different than when it dries. And then I can already tell that this Acadia is going to be my favorite one. And so I'm gonna do a full makeover with this color and show you guys how to use silk. So stick around till the end of the video to see that. Before I swatch the colors, I'm gonna prep my sample board that I have here. This is just the old top of a desk that I have cut back. So I'm just spraying it down with some white lightning to get my surface really clean. After you clean, you want to use some clean water to rinse back any of that TSP residue. You don't want any of that on there because it'll affect the way that your paint adheres. The last step when using silk is giving it a light sand with a fine sandpaper. The scuff sand just gives your paint a little bit to stick to. You're not taking back the finish, you're just scuffing up the surface. The first color I'm swatching out of the line is Glacier. This is a beautiful light gray with some warm undertones. This is definitely an earthy gray. They have some other grays in the silk line, but those tend to be a little bit cooler, I think. So I love seeing this option that's a little bit more beige and warm. The reason I wanted to swatch these for you is because paint looks so different out of the can than it does when it dries down. So I'm going to let all these dry down completely. Can you see how different that looks? So much more depth to it, and it's a little bit darker when it dries. The next color I'm swatching is Badlands. On the website, they call this a gray with warm undertones, but I definitely think this leans more beige than a gray. This one definitely looks so much lighter in the can, and when you're painting it on, here's what it looks like when it dries down. I love this one. It is so earthy, and it honestly reminds me of like a mushroom color. And next up is Everglades, and this is kind of a yellowy green. It's really bright. I don't see myself painting anything with this, but it's a really fun color. This whole line is very earthy, and I would almost say neutral, but I love how they put little pops of color like this in here for all you color lovers out there that want a little bit of that pop. When this one dries down, it definitely deepens up a lot and is not so bright. And next up is Yellowstone. So this is another pop of color in the line. This reminds me of the Mojave color in the silk line, but it's definitely brighter. So if you like mustard, this is going to be more of a bright mustard, and then Mojave is kind of more muted and darker. Again, you're going to see more depth and darkness as it dries down. I really love the way that one looks. And next up is Sequoia, and this one reminds me of my childhood growing up in the 80s. I swear my refrigerator was this exact color. When this one goes on, it looks really orange, but as it dries down, more of those red tones come through. So this one definitely looks way different in the can than it does when it dries down. This definitely wouldn't go in my home, but I would love to paint a piece of furniture with this color. Okay, next up is Smoky Mountains, and on the website they call this a gray as well, but I definitely feel like it's more green than a gray. I guess I can see it. It's a gray with really, really greenish blue undertones. And I thought I loved this going on, but when it dries down, I love this color even more. How stunning is that? Last up is Acadia, and I knew this was going to be my favorite color. It reminds me a lot of collard greens in their chalk line, and you guys know I love that color. I've used that color so much, and when this one dries down, oh yes, it is perfection. So that is why I chose this color to make over my desk that I'm going to be flipping today. This desk used to be my son's. I made this over in the fall of 2020 for when we had to do all that at home schooling, and he was 5 years old. He is about to be 9 now. So he outgrew this a while ago, and it's just been sitting in the attic. And I thought this was the perfect candidate to make over and showcase this Acadia color that I have just fallen in love with out of this line. So this desk is actually in great shape because I've already made it over once. So I'm not gonna have to do any repairs or anything. I'm just starting by removing the hardware, and I'm gonna give it a good clean for all the areas I'm gonna repaint. So I'm grabbing my Dixie Belle White Lightning, just like I cleaned my board in the beginning of the process of swatching all the colors for you. And I'm just gonna spray this over all the painted areas because I'm gonna be leaving the natural wood alone. When you're working with silk, it has a built-in primer, color, and top coat. So the only steps you really need to do is give it a really good cleaning, rinse that off with some water so you don't have any residue left behind from your cleaner. And then I give it a scuff sand with a fine sandpaper just to rough up that surface a little bit to give the paint something to stick to. As always, I will link all the products that I'm using down in that description box, and you can also tap the little button in the left-hand corner that says View Products, and anything that's available through YouTube Shopping, I will link there. So this is just a light scuff sand with a fine sandpaper. You're just using light pressure. You just want to see a little bit of dust kick back from that top coat that you have on there. You don't want to cut through your finish because then you might deal with bleed through and things like that. So you're just giving it a light once over the entire piece. You'll see a little bit of dust kick up. Then you're just going to take a damp cloth and wipe back any of that dust before you start painting so it doesn't get trapped in your paint. So I had pretty easy prep on here because I didn't have to make any repairs. So I am ready to paint with this beautiful Acadia color. I didn't tape off anything. I'm keeping the top raw and the feet raw. And when I originally did this, I taped, but I decided I'm just going to freehand because I want to save time and I want to get this makeover done fast. And I want to show you that you don't have to have like tons of skills and things just to flip something really quick in your house. I'm using my synthetic mini to paint. This is one of my favorite brushes to use with the silk line, and I'm just using smooth strokes. This paint is really thin and glides on really nicely, especially over a finished surface like this. And if you haven't seen me use this silk paint on my channel before, let me give you the rundown of all the reasons I like it. It has a built-in water-based primer, which really helps with adhesion or any bleed through you might get from an old piece of furniture that maybe the top coat is failing. Then it has the color built in and it has the top coat built in. And top coating is one of my least favorite things to do with furniture. So this silk paint dries down to a nice reflective satin finish. And it's going to be, you know, scuff resistant. It has a UV protectant in it. It holds up really well. I have it on several pieces in my house and I've had them for a couple years, 2 or 3 years. And those pieces of furniture still look great. And one of them is in my daughter's room. So that is the real test. I mean, it has some nicks and dings here and there because kids can be really rough and crazy with their furniture. But I was honestly shocked when this came out. I was thinking, oh, there's no way, you need to top coat it. But I have several pieces of furniture that are painted in silk and they have held up really well in my home. And I like when I'm hand painting that I don't have to mist or add any water. This really smooths out and levels out just because of its consistency. So if you're used to working with a chalk paint, it is different. It's a different technique of painting. You have to get used to doing it without water. The only time I ever add water to silk is when I'm going to spray it. So I'll leave some videos down below if you want to check out my playlist of all the silk makeovers that I have. It has definitely become one of my favorite paints over the years. And if you haven't tried it out yet, I hope this video is the inspiration for you to grab a can and try it out. When I'm painting with silk, I like to work my way around the edges and kind of make a border like this. And then once I get my border done, I just have my brush strokes go all in the same direction and really smooth it out as I go. A 16-ounce container of silk will cover about 60 to 80 square feet. So this is how much I used for my first coat. All right, first coat's dry. We're ready to add the second. I knew I was gonna love this color. It dries down a lot deeper than you see in the can. And my coverage is pretty good for that first coat. And the best part is after I add this second coat and it dries down, I'm gonna be completely done because this has a nice built-in top coat. As you can see, I got really good coverage on the first coat. We just have some of that old gray peeking through, so we're going to put on that second coat to make it look nice and uniform. And here's a little trick that I like to do on my drawers. I actually paint them in the opposite direction on the second coat. It kind of just helps fill in those gaps, and I feel smooths it out and levels it out a little bit better so that you don't see as many of those brush strokes. While that second coat's drying, I'm going to grab my Big Mama's Butter and condition all the wood portions on here. It was just looking a little thirsty, so I'm just going to take a little bit of this balm, rub it on the top as well as the legs just to revive them and make them look fresh. I let everything dry overnight, and then I was ready to put everything back together in the morning. Like I said, this was in my 5-year-old's room, so he drew a lot on the inside of the drawers, and instead of sanding those and cleaning those, I decided to just cover them up with some wallpaper that I have. And here's a little trick for this. I actually like to put double-sided tape on the back of here and not adhere it, because if someone wants to change this out or if it gets messed up, it's just going to be a lot easier for them down the road if it's only double-sided taped in a few corners, and it still stays in here really nicely. And I decided to grab some brushed brass hardware because I think this will look better than the black hardware that was on here. It's just going to give more contrast with this new paint color. These are from Liberty, and I will link them in the description box with all those other products that I have used during this makeover. So this was a super fun flip that only took me about a day and a half, and here is the final result. I love this rich, beautiful green. It just gave this whole desk a new transformation. I loved the makeover before, but I loved how quick it was just to use a little bit of paint to change this look completely. But I want to know what you think. Did you like the gray desk better or the new green version? I hope you guys enjoyed this look into the new National Parks line. Let me know down in the comments, what color are you dying to try? Do you love the new Acadia look of this desk? I know I do. I'll be back with another video soon. Thanks for being here, you guys, and I will see you next time.